Right. So this morning we're gonna look at dance, we're gonna look at submarines, and we're gonna look at kind of sculpture, which feels like a lovely selection of artistic endeavors. We're gonna hear from Zoe Lee Gadd and Sebastian García Ferro. I hope I've got that right. Who is from Barcelona? Who I met briefly at Theatre by the Lake earlier this week. But they've got ambitious plans to do great dance things in Cumbria next year. So we're going to hear about what that's all about. We're going to hear from Charlotte, who helps run the Dock Museum in Barrow, which I've never been inside, but you're going to see some nice little animations of what it's like inside if you've not been there before, and also exciting developments as to where it's headed as well. So that's again, just those of you who don't know, it's just on kind of next to BAE, it's on the way across to near the bridge on the way to Walney. Um, I've got that roughly right, I think. But as I say, I've never actually been inside myself, which is a big gap on my cultural tour of Cumbria. And then Owen Herbert, who's a sculptor. Where's Owen? There he is. He is in London, and he is part of this exhibition that's just opened at Florence that Kate went to last night. I think it's three artists. Really interesting stuff, and we're going to hear from Owen about what that's about and what he's about as well. So that is the plan for this morning. That will take us through to 10:30. Nice to see Virginia joining and Janet. Hello, Janet. Phil, hello. And one or two other people as well. So that is the plan for this morning. Does that sound reasonable? And as I say, and Amy's going to drive the slides that we've got for each of these sessions. So to begin with, let's go across to Corby Hill, that glamorous outer suburb of Carlisle, where Zoe and Sebastian are located this morning, to tell us a bit more about what their thinking is about a potential collaboration project, whatever you want to call it, next year in Cumbria, all about dance. So Zoe, over to you, and Amy will get your slides up.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tom. Thanks, everyone. And hello, everyone. So as some of you will know, some of you may not know, I lived in Carlisle for a long time, from when I was 10 until 2020, when just before lockdown, I relocated down to London and have spent 4 years working away in higher education, dance, management, and musical theatre, and also have run my own company, Dance Ahead, for quite some time, producing work with community projects within the region and in Cumbria since 2008. And in 2013, I was lucky enough to take part in this amazing dance exchange in Barcelona, where I met the wonderful Sebastian, who joins me today. So Sebas is going to tell you a little bit more about what Barcelona Dance Exchange does. I'm aware that we've got quite a strict time, which is absolutely fine. And I'm going to set a timer now so that we don't go over. But the exchange for me really whisked me away from Cumbria and took me into a world of 60 professional artists from across the globe. And we spent 5 days immersed in sharing of practice and research in dance and movement, working with some amazing musicians as well, and collaboratively through research and process-driven work. So I'll hand to Sebastian to tell you a little bit more about Barcelona Exchange, and then we'll come to what our hopes, wishes, and dreams and thoughts are for the coming kind of years, really. And hopefully next year we would love to host our initial landing, so to speak, in Cumbria. And I'll tell you a bit more about that today. But Sebastian, do you want to tell us a bit more about the exchange? Can I have the next slide as well, please? Thanks, Amy.
Okay, thank you so much, Tom, for giving us this spot to talk with everybody. We're super excited to be here with you guys. The Barcelona International Dance Exchange is an organization that facilitates programs to make or to propose and propel mobility and exchange between dancers, choreographers, artists, and cultural managers all across the world through a unique tool that's called B-Lab. Our B-Lab system is a practice that gave us a place to exchange practices, and through these practices see with who we are interacting better, or with who we can have something in common, and also with who we have something that is not in common at all. So our history is about trying to see that other ways to make things happen, and this is all about so. And when we say globally, we work with 4 different continents, and you see the numbers there. So many participants with so many backgrounds, And one of the key things of BIDE is also the fact that we like to break the hierarchy inside the creative process, where it's more transversal and more horizontal. And also we want to break the aging, so it's absolutely intergenerational. So our programs, opens the doors to people who are in the starting point of their career. So maybe they still are starting, and people who have, 40 years of a career behind. So, and everybody has the same, let's say, level for us. Nobody's more than the other one. And just finishing and give you the torch to Zoe. We are based in Barcelona in a beautiful place called La Caldera. That is a choreography center where BIDE and me as a choreographer, we are one of the artists associated to this project. And of course, this place is where we have our base, where we have our co-working, and where our main program that happens at the end of June happens every year. And we exist since 2008. So we have a long history behind. And the second thing that we also launched 4 years ago that have some relationship with Tom is our digital program that Zoe will be talking about later. So I hope that these introductions make sense. And Zoe?
Absolutely. So there's quite a lot of programs within BIDE, and they have an annual event, which is actually taking place at the end of June. So I'll be in Barcelona from the 24th of June. The event runs from the 26th to the 30th. There are still spaces if anyone wants to come and indulge and immerse themselves in Barcelona life, and I can share those links after this as well in the chat. If I could have the next slide, please. So there is a short video here. I'm not going to play it just yet, but we'll share this with you, and hopefully Tom, Kate, Amy, you can share the slides with people and they can watch this at their leisure. We will put the link in the chat. Basically, a B Lab is an opportunity for artists, mainly dance movers in this context in Barcelona, to immerse themselves in each other's research. So rather than a classic, for those of you who may not be familiar with the dance world, as in many theatrical contexts, often the director has the reins. In this context, we work very much with that, as Sebastian says, a non-hierarchical approach. So what BIDE does incredibly well is facilitate artists to explore their own ideas and research and thoughts by dropping an idea into this room of seemingly disconnected artists to all be let loose on their research. So we indulge ourselves in about three to 6 hours of movement research. And if there are artists from different practices, different perspectives, so the musicians that we've worked with in the past, artists, more Pilates-based instructors as well, they can input from their perspective. So it really creates this rich sharing of developmental research and progressive research. So there is a video on what a B Lab is and what that methodology is that's central to all of BIDE's work, but I'll allow you to watch that in your own time. It's only 1.5 minutes, but I don't want to use our time just now for that. So if we could have the next slide, it might start it. Sorry, Amy, thank you. So this is some images of some of the work. Whilst we're at the exchanges, there's quite a specific structure to the exchange that is physical indulging and immersion, if you like, in research and sharing and movement. There's also speed dating, so to speak, and networking opportunities throughout the exchange event. The event in Barcelona runs for 5 days, and when we do what we call a B landing that comes to different countries and different towns, often not in the centre, so often not capital cities, we tend to, a lot of the BIDE partners are in countries. We're working a lot with Eastern European countries at the moment that don't have very strong dance infrastructure. And this is why really I want, and I'm incredibly working super hard to bring the exchange to Cumbria, because actually the way that BIDE work with facilitating mobility across regions and across rural areas is really, it really speaks to me. And I relate to that in the sense of Cumbria and the artists and how we are such a rich region really of venues, spaces, and practice, but nestled in our own areas across the region. So connection is key basically for the exchange. If I could skip to the next one. And then obviously, as we are present in these exchanges, it really gives us choices to how we use this opportunity that is presented in the exchange. So the exchange itself has been a catalyst for hundreds of collaborations across the globe with artists. And one of the beauties within the exchange is that we work with our partners to set up and offer scholarship opportunities to travel to other dance festivals, arts-based festivals, events and opportunities, and we facilitate that. So not always with the airfare, but I mean each scholarship is negotiated separately, but then obviously we can signpost to funding opportunities, and hopefully within the network that will come from the Cumbria exchange that we're planning to do next year. If we could skip again, please. So again, how does Cumbria connect with Barcelona? I did a bit of research. Apparently it would take 360 hours to walk to Barcelona from Cumbria, which is a pretty epic walk. I'm sure you'd see many sights along the way. And Sebastian's question was, does that include walking on the water, or is it like wading through the sea? But we're not sure about that. But basically the B landings, where we land in a different country, give visibility, value and recognition to the process, which I think in such a superficial kind of media fueled or often product driven place, and that's not to dismiss performance, we're like massive fans of performance of course, but actually the devising, that discussion and the learning that takes place during process lies, as we know, at the heart of creative practice, despite the discipline that you're working in. Now, not all art forms are necessarily connected, so I know that if you're working in more fine art contexts or in sculpture, sometimes and often there is that sense of isolation and that necessity for isolation as well. But the connectivity that can come through movement, from my experience, my background's more performing arts, so drama and singing as well, but the shared languages between arts disciplines and creative practice really shine within this kind of exchange context. The beauty of Barcelona Exchange is that it allows us to reach across borders. Now, I think the placement of Cumbria being on a border itself and having this identity as a border city is also quite interesting for us to explore. If we could skip to the next slide, please, Amy. How am I doing for time? 5. So introducing Be Emotion UK. This is our idea, this is our concept, and we wanted to bring it now because it's not developed in the sense of where it will get to. I'm really keen to, over the next, I guess, few weeks, months, to engage with artists and say, okay, how could we conceptualize a landing, a Cumbria international exchange that, yes, is centered on movement, but moving together in shared language across artists for an interdisciplinary exchange. So allowing us to see how dance could interact with digital arts, for example, or to see how dance could interact in Cumbria with sculpture. I was involved in a big draw event. It was a Quentin Blake big draw event many years ago, where I worked with life drawing artists with a group of dancers, and the work that came out of it was fascinating. It was amazing. And I also worked with Chris Dennett. I know you're on the call. We worked with a project in the Lane shopping centre a few years ago, where we devised a project called Do the Doodle, which was effectively a collaboration and across doodling, arts, digital arts and movement, singing and movement. We had a live improvisation from a beautiful classical singer, where I did a dance solo with charcoal in my feet and created, like tracked the dance on the floor through artwork. And we had some local skateboarders, funnily enough, Davey, who came, and it was an open door, and they came and created these amazing artworks along long pieces of paper across the floor with their skateboards dipped in paint. So it's a real inclusive opportunity, and that's what I'd love for this. That's what we would love to go, okay, how does the B Lab methodology sit within Cumbria for Cumbrian artists? Dance is not massive in the region. It exists. There are some amazing dance projects that happen. Barbara, I know you're on the call. There's some fantastic work that happens in Cumbria. How can we celebrate this, shout about it a little bit more? And how can I help as well to facilitate the development of dance within our region? That's kind of what I'm really excited about at the moment. So this is early stages, it's concept, it's blue sky thinking about what can Cumbria International Dance Exchange do for us, basically. If we could skip forward, that would be great. So it's a ticket, effectively, to invite you guys, performing artists and other artists, to exchange in the countryside of Cumbria. I have this beautiful vision of it being site responsive. So I'm happy to co-produce with Sebas and organise these connections. We had a wonderful meeting at Theatre by the Lake with Simon Stevens and with Tom as well this week, where we were discussing using the venue as a hub potentially for us to base one of the days and for us to spill out to the lake if weather permits, of course, or if we want to go in the rain, that's fine too. And then we've also connected with Carlisle Cathedral. So we're looking at celebrating space and responding to that through arts as well. Yay, Davey, that's fabulous, thank you. And let's connect as well, it'd be great to have some contact, just seen in the chat. So it's a catalyst for how we can build longer term partnerships, not only in our own locality, but beyond that and across the field. And we can offer scholarships for a couple of international artists to come and join us in this, of course. What this isn't is Sebastian and me going, we're going to teach a dance class and lead everyone in a dance class environment. It's not that. It's about providing a space for exchange where we can each speak our own language, whatever that is, so to speak, through physicality, through artistic expression, and share that and see what happens, what magic we can create together. There are sharings that happen throughout it as well. And the main thing is for us to collaborate and have some fun as well and do what we do, indulge. Like I say, I'll share this so we can have a look at, you can have a look at this at your leisure. If I could skip forward again, please, Amy. So alongside that, Sebastian, just very quickly before we finish, I think I've got a minute maybe left, Tom, is that right? The Bee Road Trip podcast is a concept that Sebastian is working on in Spain at the moment, and we're super keen to what do you want to, can I hand back to you, Sebas, just for a little insight about podcast?
Yes, surely. We started podcast 4 years ago. We already post 80 episodes until now, so it's quite a lot. And the idea of the podcast is to give a space to all the people who are involved in performing arts. You know, it's not just dancers or choreographers, also managers, producers, visual artists, prop designers, etc. And we want to do this idea of connecting dots in the countryside. So what if we take a car, you know, and we go where the places or where the people are making things happen that not usually relate to the big cities. So we are making like a beta plan now for Germany and Spain, and we'll be trying to also put this people podcast inside the proposal of making the B-motion.
Absolutely. And if we, oh, that's my timer. And if we could skip to the last slide, I think it's just our contact. Oh, the aims are there. I'll send them to you. Hopefully you can kind of guess the aims. I think we don't need to go through that right now. Obviously, as I'm sure you're aware, and from all the amazing training I've been at through the network, I'm trying to pull together a bit of a case here so that we can put in some funding bids, obviously, to get support. But it's about empowerment. It's about creative expression. It's about celebrating that process that we don't often. We have to be multifaceted as artists, as we know. We are our own kind of fundraisers, producers, all the rest of it. This is about what is that process? How can we do it together? And let's skip to the next slide. Our contacts, hopefully now, are on the screen. We'll share it all in the chat as we move forward, and I won't take any more of your time. But sorry, Tom, I've left no time for questions.
No, well, let's squeeze in any questions. If anyone's got any questions they want to put to Zoe and Sebastian, thank you very much for telling us all about that, by the way. If anyone's got any questions, then feel free to stick your hand up.
Well, I'll just chip in and say it sounds amazing, and I think it's exactly the sort of thing that we can help with through the network. And it's just great to be looking further afield than our own shores. That's my view.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks.
Janet.
Hi, Zoe and Sebastian. I'm Janet. I work for Multicultural Cumbria in Carlisle, and you're the reason I'm on the call today, because I really wanted to hear more about what you're planning. And I'm really glad to come in right at the very beginning at the concept stage. I was just wondering, in the work that you do with communities, we work with asylum seekers and refugees, and the reason I'm interested is that link around travel and the roads that people take. And I just wondered if there was any resonance with you guys around that sort of theme.
Actually, yes, we collaborate with Casa Africa, an institution that is based in Barcelona. We have Casa Asia, it means House of Asia, House of Africa, for 3 years. And they was helping to bring some artists from Africa to participate in our programs between 2013 and 2016, you know. Then they have a kind of budget, but yes, also we have people from Iran, for example, you know, where, you know, the contemporary dance is absolutely forbidden, you know, so you are not allowed to dance. So we have so many, and of course, you know, because we have attached, because I'm from Argentina originally with South America, where not the realities are so balanced, you know. So yeah, we totally relate to this topic, and we try to facilitate. Of course, the COVID blows up a lot of bridges between the collaborators and possible budget for these type of things. But it's one of our keys policies, you know, to have a wider, let's say, a variety of people, you know, not just European ones, you know. So
we have, it's worth saying as well, we've delivered women's only events as well in Jerusalem, which was fascinating. I have to say, it really opened my eyes to a completely different potential for what dance can mean to women as well. I'll stop because I know, but please do get in contact. I'd love to chat more. We're at a really good stage to be able to allow you guys to shape this as well.
What do you think, Zoe and Sebastian? What's the Cumbrianness of this potential collaboration? You know, when you talk about Jerusalem, that's, you know, that's a different place to Cumbria. What is it that Cumbria could offer or could benefit from, or what's the Cumbrian sort of aspect of this potential project? Where does Cumbria fit into it all?
I think
the fact that you're based here, obviously.
Yeah, totally. I'm based here. You know, I've come back to Cumbria. There's a draw. It pulls me back all the time. I'm in love with the landscape. What I'm not necessarily in love with, and I don't mean this with any disrespect, is just the visibility of dance in our region. I think that there's more that we can do. And I think for me, it's about supporting that. It's going, okay, how can I use the skills that I've got from working in management and higher education, that strategic kind of thinking. I'm not really sure what that is yet. As you all know, I'm a bit scatty. I've just returned. But I think from Cumbria, the diversity of artists here, and also the confidence level that shifts across the region, and you encounter amazing people. I think the ability for us to connect, and for there to be I guess an opportunity for a shared voice in Cumbria to celebrate that a little bit more. We are celebrating it in what we're doing. Of course, we are in different projects. It's another project to celebrate that, I guess. But again, a massive thing in my work through Dance Ahead is about sight as well, and relationship to sight and space. And I think the identity within Cumbria is so closely linked to place and that sense of nature, and also the types of buildings and how we respond to the environment is also intrinsic to what we're doing here often. So I think maybe some of those things, I don't know, it's a good question, Tom, and I'll think about it a bit more perhaps.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, you know,
Can I have a go? Like, basically,
yeah,
I think what you're doing is perfect, really, because the problems we are having are the transport, because we're in such a big, like the biggest county in the UK, and that, like, the transport is one of the biggest problems we have, and also the social, and that's shown in statistics. And then across getting the research, like collaborating the research, there's a lot of markets, like you're saying, the dance market and the development around the community in that needs to be developed, and the research around that isn't brought to Cumbria in like any sort of structure or format. There's a lot of people who know what needs to be done. There isn't the format or the structure coming from other establishments, or we're not just making it happen the way it should be, like the way it has in other places. And I suppose we're not behind, but we've such a task. We've got it, like, there's a lot to do, basically. So all these other places and all the information coming together will keep us ahead. Like, so I really do think it. And the scholarship situation, that's beneficial for the employability and everything for a lot of different like artists and stuff. And with the lack of development we currently have, like, I mean, like, there is the unis and things, but with the lack of development just privately or in all the rural areas, like you're saying, there is challenge, like a lot of it.
Good thoughts, David. Thank you for that. Well, that's been a really good conversation, and I hope stay in touch, Zoe and Sebastian, and let's make sure that we support you in any way we can as a network. I love the ambition. I love the ambition. So, you know, let's make it happen.
I don't think small, but I need support with that. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody. It's been a pleasure, and obviously we're super happy to have.
Great. All right, lovely stuff.
Thank you.
Lovely stuff. Thank you for talking to us this morning. Right, let's zoom straight down to Barrow, and let's hear from Charlotte Hawley, who runs the Dock Museum, beautiful institution in Barrow. Charlotte, tell us what's going on at the moment, and I think some exciting developments as well. The floor is yours, and Amy will push on your slides for you. Great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you. Also, just a brilliant presentation there. It's a tough act to follow, so I will do my best. So my name's Charlotte Hawley. I'm the Collections and Exhibitions Manager for Westmoreland Furnace, and I'm based at the Dock Museum. It's a great honour. I'm a Cumbrian myself, sort of born in Langdale, grew up in Windermere, and now have the honour to live and work in Barrow. So it's really fantastic. I moved away, and I've spent 20 years trying to get back, so it's great to be back. I've been at the Dock Museum for about 2 years now, and as soon as I came, we picked up a project called Shipyard Town, which I will talk about. It's a National Lottery Heritage funded project, and we're finally moving with that. But if I could have the next slide, please. I just wanted to tell you a bit about the Dock Museum. I don't know, some of you might not have been, Tom. But just to say, the kettle's always on, the door's always open. So if you ever want to come down and have a look and have a chat, please do. There's been a museum in Barrow since at least the 1880s. It was at the town hall and then later at the library. And we've been at the Dock Museum site now, next to the shipyard, since 1994. This building was originally built by Furness Maritime Trust. They wanted to create a maritime museum. Unfortunately, they were able to build the building, but then ran out of funds, and it lay dormant for a number of years. The council, Barrow Borough Council, took it on and decided to move the museum down here. So we are not a maritime museum. A lot of people think that because our name is the Dock Museum. We're called the Dock Museum because we're built into a Grade 2 listed graving dock. And hopefully, as far as I'm told, we're the only one in the world. So that's our claim to fame. But yeah, so we chart the history of Barrow, its huge rapid expansion, and the people who live here and their stories. So yeah, so we go from Vikings to submarines. So do come down and have a come and see us. That'd be great. Next slide, please. I'm trying to be quick.
I love the movement and the animations. It's very clever, Charlotte.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a fun afternoon doing this. So I'm here really to tell you all about a really exciting project that's happening here at the Dock Museum. It's called Shipyard Town. It originally started back in 2018, so it's been a long time coming. It was severely delayed by COVID. And then we also went through local government reform here. So we were Barrow Borough Council. We became part of a bigger, more wonderful Westmoreland Furnace Council, and that's proved it's delayed it, but we're really rolling with it now, and it's a fantastic project. I've only been here 2 years, so I can't take credit for all of this. But so it's a huge project with lots of elements of it. So originally it was just under £1 million, National Lottery Heritage Fund. We also had one of our significant partners is BAE Systems, who are our neighbours next door. They originally gave a large donation for match funding for this project, and we've also had Furness Maritime Trust and John Fisher as well. So it's been quite a well-funded project, and it's seen huge change at the museum already. So we've had installation of solar panels. We've had 2 new jobs and roles. So we have a digitisation officer, Tess. She's done a fantastic job of digitising some previously unseen images, and also working on that, creating that new inventory and a digital asset management system, which will allow our collections to be much more accessible to a lot more people, which has been fantastic. And we've also got a new education officer in post, Becca, and she's undertaking some great work, really sort of community changing, school changing. You know, we haven't had an education officer at the museum for nearly 20 years. So it's been fantastic, really, to sort of the more ways again to reconnect with our communities and really have those dialogue with what do they want from us, how can we help, what are the stories we want to tell, you know, how can we help. So that's been brilliant. Also Verity, the wonderful Verity's on this call. Through her as well, we were able to recruit some more volunteers as part of this project as well. So we've got new photography volunteers, new collection volunteers, and we will have new education volunteers. So and they come from a diverse range of people with various backgrounds and such like. So it's been brilliant. That's been quite the honor of working with these people has been great. And they've in fact they've just developed we've just done a new volunteer exhibition for them, so that's been fantastic. We've had a whole new room built, a research pod. We've had 2 new films created. One of them you can see on the screen, about particularly about submarines. So it was identified that our history stops in 1960 when we built the first nuclear dreadnought submarine, HMS Dreadnought, and then we didn't really tell that story, but obviously it's still continuing now in Barrow. We still build these things, so that was identified as one of the projects that we could improve our storytelling there. Over 2,000 images, never been seen, and they're from the 80s. Lots of shoulder pads and big hair, and some quite dubious health and safety practices. But they are a real asset, and we've been sharing them on Facebook, and the local people have really enjoyed seeing them because they're in living memory. They're not, riveters and flat caps from the 19th century. Actually, this is people's lives, and we've been gathering some great stories and oral histories through that, and that's been a really unexpected addition to the project, which has been lovely. So it's really helped enrich our collection, and hopefully as our sort of custodians for the community for their histories as well. And I've mentioned the system, which is brilliant because we have quite an old system here. It's being decommissioned next year, so this has come at a perfect time for us to safeguard our collection, and to make it more accessible is really brilliant. And also a new app, that will take people around the museum. They can add for more information. There's a specific family children's trail. We also have walks going out from the museum, one looking at nature, one looking at the industrial history. So that will take you around the Barrow area, sort of sharing sounds, videos, all sorts of stories from there. And we also have a virtual visit of our town hall, our wonderful town hall, Victorian Town Hall, which has been quite inaccessible until fairly recently. So you will be able to virtually go right up to the top of the bell tower and see all that. So that's fabulous. So it's lots of elements in this project. But if next slide, please. But the one thing that we're currently doing right now, could I have the next slide? Is it working?
Yeah, I can see a picture of inside. There we go.
All
Inside
right.
there we go. Maybe
I
yours is
can't.
frozen, Charlotte.
I can't see it. That's right. Not to worry.
Right.
So you should hopefully be able to see red cases. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So this is our biggest gallery in the Dock Museum. It's called the Shipbuilders Gallery at the minute. It hasn't been. It was last redone in 2000, and as part of this gallery, we will be revisioning this gallery that you see on the screen, and also our entrance. So that's been really exciting because it's a really large space for us. So that's great. If you can go to the next slide, and then hopefully you should be able to see.
I can see some movement, some animation of the interior.
Lovely.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is a virtual walkthrough of our new gallery that will replace the one you've just seen. So it's going to be a Shipyard Town Gallery, and it's really focusing on the people's stories of the shipyard. The shipyard still plays a significant part of our community's lives in Barrow. And so this gallery is designated for that. And what we've really tried to do is change the focus, so we don't just look at the objects and say, oh, that's a maul hammer or that's a caulking hammer. And actually, we've really tried to do our research and look back at the people who use these and their experiences in the yard and how that impact. And also, you don't have to work in the yard to be, often you have a sister or a father or a brother or a cousin or a best friend who is some way involved in the shipyard here. So it's been fabulous to sort of bring those stories alive, really. In this new gallery, and you can see some of the new graphic information that these are hot off the press. I only got these from the artwork the other day, so it's fantastic to see it all coming together. And we did a number of, so when I came, the project had been paused. We restarted it. We ran a number of workshops. We looked at these designs, and we worked with a number of groups. So Vision Barrow, Age Concern, veterans groups. We invite them down to the museum. We had tea and cake. We looked at, you know, what is it you want from this gallery? What is it you want to see? What is it you want to hear? And one of the elements, if we could have the next slide, was that people in Barrow were really keen, because a lot of people are involved in building these huge submarines, but actually people don't know what it's like to be on one, because they're very secretive. You know, there's a nuclear boundary. People don't really get to see them in their whole, or experience what it's like to live on one. So there wasn't original budget for this. So we went back to our partners, BAE, and said, look, we really want to create an immersive submarine experience. We want to take our visitors on a submarine, to feel what that's like, what it smells like, which apparently is not very nice. You know, hear the sights, the sounds, all that experience. And so they said, yep, all right. So we applied to the community fund, and we were successful for another 100,000, and they allowed us to build and develop, and it is still being developed because it's a last minute addition to the gallery of an immersive submarine experience. So people will be able to sit in a room, and there'll be number of screens going through. They'll meet Commander Jim Perks, who was the head of the submarine service. He's going to introduce them and take them through the different areas, the living areas of submarines. So they'll be able to find out about how people ate, how they sleep, you know, that lack of communication. So that you can be away for months, and your only communication is once a week. You get a familygram, and it's 60 characters, and it's, you know, it's quite hard. So we're really looking at that social aspect, and we were really pleased that we'd held those workshops, and to gather that feedback, and then to be able to do something about it was brilliant. So yeah, okay. So that's I think I'm probably over, so I won't talk anymore. But just to say, you know, we are really start to look outwards at the Dock Museum. You know, we are based in Barrow, but we would love to invite people from the wider county to come and use our spaces. We have a great middle floor exhibition space, which can be a blank canvas for anyone who's looking for a space to do something in the area. And so yeah, so please, you know, get in contact with me. I'd love to be involved in anything. So thank you.
Thanks, Charlotte. It's been a real insight into what it's like there and what's going on. And as Derek says, growing up in Portsmouth, I think you said, Derek, and you're having gone to Portsmouth, I well remember the impact of the dockyard and the Navy on the life of the city, and that whole, you know, those massive sheds, obviously, that still exist in Barrow. Such an important part of the community. And, you know, haven't they just recently got a new commission to build some more submarines? So they're doing lots of recruitment, I think, at the moment.
Yes, so the new dreadnought is coming.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, part of the offer, I think, is what's the cultural life like if you come to move to Barrow from wherever you live from. What's Barrow got to offer? What's South Cumbria got to offer? That
yeah, one of the main objectives of the project was really for the museum to play its role in helping its existing communities, but also, you know, Barrow doesn't always have a great reputation outside, and so it's about changing that, about having great pride about what we do here and sharing that with the wider world and communities. So
please put your contact details into chat, Charlotte. We're going to press on now and hear from Owen about what's going on at Florence. That's been really insightful, though, and thank you for sharing that with us. I will be there in the next weeks to come and see what's going on, and I hope everybody else will enjoy it too. And I can see a smile on Verity's face, who obviously had a big role to play in helping you find those volunteers. Really good to hear how Helping Hands helped the Dock Museum too. Right, okay, we're going to swiftly move to Owen now, who's in London, who's part of the new exhibition that's just opened at Florence. Owen wasn't able to get to, or was to the actual opening last night. Kate was there last night, so we might get an insight or two from Kate as well. But Owen, the floor is yours to tell us what's your role in it and what the exhibition is all about. And thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you, Charlotte.
Morning. Thanks for having me. on behalf of Anna and Sam and Florence Arts Centre. Yes, apologies I couldn't make it. I'm currently studying an MA, and that show needs to go up at exactly the same time. But I will be up in a couple of weeks or so when I have a slight one that gets marked. So let's launch into talking about the show, I think. So I'll start my timer.
We have your slides up. There you go.
Thank you very much. So I'm keen to get questions at the end, so I'm going to try to keep to time, but everyone says that. So this is the poster for the exhibition. It opened last night. It's on for a month, 7th of July is finishing. I'm a sculptor. I'm mentioned I'm doing a fine art sculpture master's here in Cumbria College of Arts. I was based in Manchester until recently, and I've come down to do this. And I view myself as a sculptor, and I'm interested in liveness. And we work a lot with an idea of like practice as research. So I'm not necessarily trying to, you know, behold my artistic genius. We're much more interested in like, you know, having a question and trying to answer it through work and speculatively through work. So that's the way that I tend to work, and I think you will see some of that reflected. Okay, bit about Florence. So next slide, please. Some of you may well be familiar with Florence, or perhaps not. I first met them about 3 years ago under the previous director when I was looking to set up some kind of informal residency. One of the artists that was involved in that conversation is Anna Clough, who's originally from Cumbria. And to keep it brief, eventually we discovered Florence. This is Florence's manifesto, which I've slightly abridged, which is based on John Ruskin's Mechanics Institute. So really great things in there. Safe, environmentally responsible, flexible, accessible, creative. But key here is right in the middle. Artists can collaborate. They support residencies in the context of contemporary creativity, and they're going to celebrate Cumbrian history and heritage. Should also say the bottom one there, encouraging local arts and enterprises. Florence paint makers group make an amazing range of pencils and pastels and watercolors from the pigment that they have at Florence. So a quick plug for them. Okay, moving on pretty quickly. Next slide, please. This is a archival image of the change room, which is now the gallery part of Florence Arts Centre. So essentially, this is the miners hanging their clothes in the changing room to dry. Florence was the last deep working iron ore mine in Europe. And I'm told that it's because, and I've seen the maps, it's because the limestone layers cause very deep and rich hematite deposits, and then combined with the coal along the coast there, really instrumental in building the railways, and is a really great source for pig iron. So the two things there really are power from the coal and the transport. Power and transport are both extremely important in Cumbria still today. So I think that's like the thing to say about the wider context of Florence. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, that's messed up, but that is my slide about the art context that I'm bringing. So there's an idea of sight as knowledge. So that is, you know, we have a kind of knowledge as an artist, and there's a kind of knowledge in the landscape, and you're trying to like bridge that gap as well as offer like an artistic interpretation, and hopefully that is kind of reciprocal. I just wanted to say 3 essays, which I'll maybe put in the chat at the end. Rosalind Krause's 1979 Sculpture in the Expanded Field is a great read. There's a group called the Artist Placement Group that was set up by John Latham and Barbara Steveny. They're super interesting, and their archive is just down the road from me in Peckham. And bit earlier, a French writer called Guy Debord, who writes about like how you're informed by place, and that's called psychogeography, and that spins off into its own thing, which you can find. So I'm interested, the two we're looking at, Keith Arnett burying himself into a site in 1969 on TV, and on the right, Joseph Boyce, who incidentally helped found the Green Party in the UK, and his felt suit from 1970, which I love because it's this thing of like an object which is, so on the left, Keith Arnett is like really getting into sight and the expressive qualities, I think, of sight. And on the right, Joseph Boyce is kind of, another idea of like charging up an object. So this is like his suit, and felt is like he feels it, you feel a suit. Anyway, I try not to go on too much about art history because I'm a total nerd. Let's keep going and get to Florence. Hopefully that's a good artistic context for you. So, Anna Cloth, you may have been to a talk about this film already when Anna made it. It's called Stig's Tiling Solutions. Anna is a Cumbrian artist. Originally, she's based in Manchester, Paradise Works at the moment. This film is about mark making, and there's a clay tile in that box that she takes on this route, and the things jostle around on top of the wet clay, and it leaves kind of readable, not quite readable marks. The route is from the Neolithic axe mine in Langdale over Honister Pass slate mine to the proposed coal mine site in Whitehaven over 3 days, non-consecutive days. That's called Stig's Tiling Solutions. There she is in it. The film of that and the car is now in the show at Florence. So if you want to see it in person, you certainly can. Next slide, please. And she also makes these kind of mark making machines. These two aren't actually in the show. That's partly my error, but this is the kind of thing she makes. And there's a brand new one called Heart of Gold in the show at Florence, which is, she says, about the interplay between rural and industrial systems in Cumbria. And in general, you can see the kind of time frame that Anna's working with is kind of like the kind of social history of maybe like medieval to like Victoriana, kind of, I would say. So let's go on to the next artist, please. Next slide, who is Sam Evans. Sam Evans is, I should say, Anna was trained as a painter, but she now describes herself as a process-based sculptor. Wait, let me get that right. Time-based sculptor. There we go. Sam is a sculptor. He's based in Manchester, and his stuff is about natural prehistorical timeframes and a connection with the land that goes way, way back through like ritualistic carving, viewfinders which help you to find the stars, ram's horns, and he's really trying to challenge what he feels is a contemporary disconnection from the natural world through use of the color, body adornment, cave paintings, the stone itself, hematite. He worked very strongly with hematite for this show. And he hasn't said this, but I really think that he's interested in viewing from like where you're standing to like where you're looking to, and making us aware of where we are standing now. Because I think a lot of the work in the show is like suspended and you look through it. And this work on the right is definitely that as well. Because you can use that to like pick out constellations. So that's Sam. And next slide, please. I get to talk about myself. This is so all the work that I've made for the change room is brand new, except for one drawing, which you'll see, which I did, which isn't in this show, but you'll see if you go in person, which is something that I did on site last year, and that I've just framed in felt, thinking about like the Joseph Boyce's felt suit, but also like the woolly parts of Cumbrian, landscape sheep, basically. So there's two works in this image. Also, everything I'm going to show you now is studio shots. The works have been installed by Anna and Sam. I'm really excited to go and see that. I haven't seen that yet. And these shots aren't in the show. So hopefully we'll just like enjoy that there's a slight distinction. This is two works, I think, landscape and lifting, landscape with lifting together, landscape at the top, lifting at the bottom, appropriately. Next slide, please. So this, which I call landscape, you know, it's a reference to the pictorial tradition of the Lake District, but it's enamel on metal. There's a slight departure with the fact that you can't actually enamel on iron oxide. So here I'm going to be working with metal and with color, but there's a little bit of like artistic departure there. It's kind of kept metal and color, but the actual one wouldn't quite do it. I want to talk about this pictorial tradition. So I think this is kind of like through my car windscreen, the trees or the lichen or the, you know, maybe some kind of mold, but I think quite beautiful, or I think beautiful as well. And then it goes kind of with the next slide, please, which is lifting, which I think is it's got a kind of a claw or like a stop motion throw or like a rib or like another tree thing going on. And that's just a piece of shaped copper as well with an iron oxide aerosol applied to one side. So that's kind of the relation to the pigment there. And I think together you have this this kind of longing, personally, between this like the industrial, like the energy and the industrial foi of some parts of Cumbria, and then the like the other kind of the Wordsworth, you know, Beatrix Potter stuff maybe. But it's, I can see my works are abstract, but this is what I'm thinking about. Next slide, please. So Florence mine is Old Bank number 2. It's an extension to the first mine. Florence was the name of was an affectionate name of the wife of the chairman of the board, so it's named after him. So I've kind of made, to my mind, I've kind of made Florence some roses here, or like some reeds, some like scented reeds or something. So it's with steel, which is related to the site, and a bottle which is from the site, which I've now like returned. I think there's something here about like coming out and like from the landscape, but also like preservation, something temporary, something permanent, you know, because this show is partly about objects which are caught up in change or expressive of change. So it's kind of like a moment, and that's why it's using the conventions of still life. Okay, next slide.
I'm going to squeeze you slightly, Owen, to 2 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
As in 2 more, and I'll be at 15 and stop. Is that right?
We need to finish the call at just at 1/2 past. So it's 28 past.
Oh,
So carry on.
Up to get a question.
Okay.
See it, and let me plug the workshops. If you go to Florence Art Centre, there's some family-friendly workshops. Let's just stop there so I can get something back. But hopefully you enjoyed that, and that has given you something. Okay.
Barbara's just saying there in chat, love your work, Owen. I'm interested in where you get your inspiration from, Owen, for different elements of what you produce.
I wrote something. Let's see if it answers the question.
Okay. Kate, just while you're doing that, Kate, you were there last night.
Yes, I went to the opening last night, and I'd really thoroughly recommend it. It's the 3 artists are really different. It's really curious. It's really varied. It's you know, Florence is not a big place, but it's the exhibition is really worth spending a bit of time there and kind of absorbing yourself in it. And if you've never been, it's a fascinating place, and I love the way that when you pull up there in your car, the ground, the earth turns pink under your feet, and you have a real sense of where you are. And I thought the work that we looked at last night was kind of very much picked up on
So
that.
it was way up. It's the old changing room, isn't it? I think where the miners used to get
It's a
changed.
shower block. Yeah,
It's such an atmospheric place, and you see that massive wheel of the actual mine just
I'd really
over
recommend
there,
it.
sort of thing. Anyway, Owen, have you found your piece of writing?
It's not really about my inspiration. Who knows where inspiration comes from, apart from doing it and having questions and trying to propose answers to them, I suppose. But I wrote this. The work is about Cumbria and this specific site on the one hand, and contemporary art practice on the other, through colour, as Kate was just saying. It's kind of the introductory point. The work isn't that I've put into this. It's not offering a definitive view, because landscape is in some ways inexhaustible. Even someone like Wainwright, if you go every day, you wouldn't exhaust a landscape, artistically speaking, anyway. And this is just to say, I'm not here to tell you Cumbrians about their history, just to say I'm interested as an artist too, and this is a not definitive artistic interpretation to allow everyone to take in a kind of continuous reappraisal of like what we have around us. So this is like what I'm trying to do, and then the work somehow just appears.
And Ian asks in chat, is your work on show at the centre in this exhibition?
Yeah, that stuff is all in it, but it's not the arrangement I have also not seen. So
okay.
Yeah.
Nanette.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I went to see it yesterday at the launch as well, and I thought it was fantastic because we don't often get that kind of thing in West Cumbria. It was so contemporary, and it was just wonderful. I've got there's
the flyer
here with all the workshops. So there's one happening on the 8th of June, cataloguing Neolithic axe heads, and then there's a ceramic jigsaw workshop as well on the 22nd of June, and a cardboard machines workshop on the 6th of July. So lots of exciting
When was
stuff.
the last time you went to a cardboard machines workshop? And Amy's put a link into chat there as well for events, which I'm sure we'll have all the dates on as well. Owen, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. I hope you get a chance to come up and see it at some stage in amongst your busy studying schedule and making schedule at Camberwell. But it's really good to hear that, and it's just great to get outside influences coming into Cumbria. And as Nanette says, we know this sort of stuff doesn't often happen in Cumbria, so it's a great treat to have it on our doorstep to go and see it. It's 10:32. We're slightly over. Thank you very much to Zoe, to Sebastian, to Charlotte, and to Owen, of course. It's really lovely to have such a rich, array of stuff this morning. Really enjoyed it this morning. Next week, we're hoping, by the way, to hear from Kate and Maddie and Colette from the university to reflect on how it was that they managed to whittle down the 235 applications down to 3 for the Catalyst project. I think part of the purpose of doing the Catalyst project is lots of learnings, and one of them is about actually how do you do a great application for a funding opportunity. And so I'm sure there'll be some learnings that come. So fingers crossed that's going to happen next week. So if you're a freelance creative, or frankly, if you ever do a funding application for anything, this might be one for you to tune in on and just listen to those reflections from those people. Is that right, Kate? Have I got that roughly right?
That is the plan. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So something to a slightly different one next week, but hopefully instructive. Right. I'll be jumping to a car soon to drive back up to Cockermouth from Cambridge this morning. I'm doing 3 sessions at Words by the Water. So I'm interviewing Stuart McConey, Luke Harding and David Kynaston over the weekend. So you've got nothing better to do. Come along and hear me try and ask some pertinent questions to those 3. But anyway, great to see you all. Hope you've got a nice weekend ahead of you too. And catch you all next week. And thanks to all those who've spoken this morning. Cheerio.